We're starting. So this is Ryan Morini with the Sam Proctor Oral History Program. Today's January 24th, 2020. And I'm here with my colleagues, if you want to.
Amanda, Lorenzo.
Ebony Love.
Ashley, Brickhouse.
And we are at the home of
Hazel Land.
Thank you very much for inviting us to your home. Can I ask what the M stands for?
May.
May. Okay. And so, when and where were you born?
I was born here in Brooksville, Florida, on June 12th, 1932. I was born at home because at that time there was no hospital. This is a small place and still is small, but has grown a lot. And we do have some hospitals now. Did that cover the date of birth?
Oh, yes.
Everything and where?
Yes. And so was there a midwife present at the birth?
Excuse me?
Was there a midwife?
Yeah, a midwife served to bring me into the world.
Do you know who that person was?
I know she was related to us, but I don't remember her name.
Okay. May I ask your parents' names?
My parents' name?
Yes.
My mom's name was Allie Mae Land. She came from the Larry family. That's her maiden name. And what was that I had to get? And my father's name was Hazel Land. He was not from this town. He was from somewhere in South Carolina. They married and separated when I was 4 or 5 years old. I had 2 sisters older than me, and that was the end of the family as such, names of the family. Both of my sisters have died now, and I miss them so much. Hasn't been that long since they've left. But everybody has that to contend with. Family members departing this earth. But we seem to make it, go on. And let's see now, what else is it you want to know about the family?
Well, so you grew up here in Brooksville?
Yes, grew up in Brooksville, and that was during segregation days now. Blacks go to one school, whites go to another school, and that's the way it was during my time here. I wanted to say something about separate schools, and but I can't speak with any belief about things if you weren't there. Or I know about my school and the black school, but and just not too long ago I was doing some work on trying to describe the black school from the white school. I didn't finish my work on that, but I think I'll get back on it, because there's not much on that. One or two books have been written by at least one school superintendent, and I believe another one was written by somebody else in the school system who at the time was studying at a junior college here that we had in town. My other two sisters, they also finished high school here in Brooksville. Carrie, the second child of my parents, and also the oldest one, Rosetta, she finished high school here also. Carrie did graduate work did her college work at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. That's where I graduated from too, 1 year after her. She was 1 year ahead of me. She in public school, graduated in 1948, and I graduated from high school in 1949. We both went to school and had we had to get jobs up there because Mom had no money to send us to college, but we got up to Tuskegee, had a program where you could work and go use that money. We worked for Tuskegee, and in various areas, and you can use that money to go to school with. I enjoyed my work at Tuskegee, and I was copying off my sister in choosing what I wanted to do. She chose physical ed, and not that I wanted to do it so much, but I did that too. Whatever she did, I did the same thing. But I didn't. My teaching was not in that area the entire time. I taught for, I guess, about 10 years. My first year of teaching was in Alabama itself, not too far from Tuskegee. And the second year I taught in Florida. I'll think of the name of the town shortly, but I can't recall right now. And the other years were at in New Jersey at the 2 or 3 years at New Jersey was in the Department of Physical Education, but not as a school with a class. You take one class, and that's your class for this period and that period. Not that way. About that time, the Peace Corps came out. President Kennedy announced the Peace Corps and what it was all about. And he said, "Let's," and I said, "Go." I really wanted to, because for a long time I had wanted to get to somewhere in Africa, and I thought that'd be a good way to get there, and it was. I went first to, in Peace Corps program, I went to the Philippines. At that time, I was in early group. They had chosen one group of people to be trained in the States, and I was in the midst of serving out a contract with New Jersey, and I didn't go the first time. I went the second time they trained, and that was in, as I said, in the Philippines, and the second trip was to Nigeria. That was, of course, real interesting to me, and I enjoyed it. And some asked me, did you get married? But I didn't. No, and for no reason other than my own private reasons. But I enjoyed it. Came back, I started working for the NAACP, first in Florida. Well, when I got back here home, they hadn't organized the NAACP. So I did it, door to door, going, asking, will you? And then our people were reluctant because other things, so many things had been happening to you if you start with your rights as a citizen, and you probably weren't living at the time. I mean, didn't see what we were up against, as because it hasn't gone yet. But but I'm just saying that we just didn't have that to contend with. But at any rate, you know what the situation is now yourselves, because you're in it. There was no branch of the NAACP here in Brooksville, Hernando County, and so I one day I was in Tampa, and I had intended to go by the NAACP office there, and that day that I chose to do that, the regional director of the NAACP was in Tampa training the first, no, he wasn't the first state person to work with the NAACP for fun, as a job, and but it was his first day. He was being trained, so the regional director said she taught both of us at the same time. Well, maybe she did say something. I mean, but at any rate, we started out from there. Marvin Davies was his name. I don't think you wouldn't know him. I don't believe you. Yeah, well, I know you wouldn't because of your ages. So I came back and I got every book they had on the NAACP, pamphlets and whatnot, and then I just went ahead and knew what I had to do is to get membership of 50 I think that was the minimum membership you had. And I went from door to door and talked to people. But, and it took less than a month, 28 days to talk to people, tell them what it is and how it is. And they knew just like I did, know, but they thought that they would be without a job if they, and I guess some did, I don't know. But they really didn't know enough about it. You know, all they knew about on the television is burning down and had the wrong information about who did the burning and that kind of thing. But we did get that done in that length of time, and it's still that same group that we organized is still in they had their annual luncheon last Saturday, I think, 17th, 18th, or something like that. So we are still going. No need to close up yet, because you haven't done all the work that needs to be done yet. But at any rate, we had that going. And if you want to break in any time, feel free to ask a question about whatever. So I was hired by the NAACP after I got back here and started doing things like organizing a branch. And so I worked in Florida for a while, and then I was assigned to the state of Tennessee. I was there in Tennessee for about 3 years, I think. And
you were regional director there?
no, not regional.
No, not regional. Okay.
But I was a state director for the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
But the regional directors had maybe Tennessee and 5 or 6 other states to be over, like the one that I first, the one that did my first training in AACP was the regional director, and her office was in Atlanta, and she had the southeastern states under her jurisdiction. I enjoyed that work, and I'm glad I was able to do that. Let's see, I think it was I don't recall now how many years that was. I worked with Tennessee, but I think it must have been about 3 years or 4 years. I don't know. Don't recall. And then I thought, and being a lawyer was not on my mind as a younger person, as an adult, but having been out there and seeing what it was all about and what needed to be done, I felt that I wanted to do that, and I did it. As I said, worked that long. And then other things came up, and it got in my mind somehow that we need to know, and larger groups need to know about what's going on, what we need to do, and what we can do, and that kind of thing. And all during this time, there were still lots of problems with racial problems. And I don't know how it got in my mind to pursue a law degree, but I knew it would, from time to time, when I'd hear about some blacks being arrested for this and that, and how it was done and that kind of thing, and I just got it in my mind. I need to see what I can do better about our boys going to court, getting sentenced for triple and more so than that for things that they have done, crimes that they have committed, and other people of the whites doing the same thing and getting far less, that kind of thing. So I applied. Nobody, I didn't tell anybody about it. I just applied for, I don't know, 4 or 5 states. I made application, and they all, which was I guess what they look at, they ask for is your grade. I mean your grades and well, your work period in the so far as trying to get a degree and that kind of thing. And I think it was about 4 or 5 states, schools I applied, and I was accepted in all of them, but naturally I chose one, and it was University of Florida. I didn't want to go to nothing that's lower than that, than what they call the best in the state. And I wanted it in this state because I knew I wanted to come back here to live. And that was no problem because the University of Florida already struggled with the NAACP when they had to let the first black person go. I've forgotten his name now.
Did you know
the first black student to enroll there?
George Allen or George Stark?
George Allen, yeah.
Did you know him personally?
Is that that sounds familiar, but it seems to me as an older person than he was. I don't know,
Are
but
you thinking of Virgil Hawkins?
Huh?
Virgil Hawkins, is that?
I believe that sounds familiar, too. So, but at any rate, I had no problems with him. I had to write Tuskegee. I mean, where you did your undergraduate work at, and then they didn't interview me or anything. They just accepted me. And I was the first. I wasn't the first woman, black woman, to apply for that, but I was the first one to finish my work, legal work there. And at my graduation, all of Brooksville was there except 5,000 or 6,000. But it was a lot. I don't think that. I know that that's the largest group of black people being at a graduation of a student there. And I don't know, but I don't believe that there's been any more than that. I wasn't even living back home then, but the church found our church, my family's church, found out, and they told everybody that this is, I would be the first one to graduate. Well, not, they didn't say out of men and women. They said I was the first one. You know how people, they can fix it like you want, like they wanted to. But we have a large family, and also it wasn't just family people there. But I knew that, you know, I knew, by the way, I'm a Christian, and I deeply believe in my faith. And I know that if I ask and I have a desire to do that, I know it's coming true, and just follow up. Yeah, after that, let's see, I did some work in doing before I started as a lawyer, you know, and wait for your wait to really become a lawyer by passing the test. And I didn't pass it the first time I took it, but I passed it the second time that I took the test, and went on from there. I mean, on that first, and during the time of waiting and becoming member of the bar, I worked at legal services in Jacksonville, and there were others there too who were waiting, I mean, not certified yet.
How was your experience at the law school? Like, when you were in law school, how was your experience?
Oh, it was all right. I was the only a woman, black woman that was in my class that started when I started. But the next year, I mean, and there was that wasn't, but that there was a man. He's right there, and probably right where's our school in Gainesville? Gainesville. He was there with the two of us started together, and the next year. There was some group that sought blacks who were interested in going to law school, and they would come. They would have them there at some of them. Well, that's when the training program comes on at that time, and that's when we got my second year there. A group of black students. I mean, and when I say a group, about 10 or 20 like that. About 10 or 15 maybe started my second year there. And but I didn't. And there's one thing I got thinking about this not too long ago. I never studied with a group, and I told somebody about that one time. It was in my final year. I was talking to some girl, and they say they don't see how you can go you can go all you want to. You know, I just wasn't depending on nobody but me. I didn't get a group together, so you know, you can't. Why didn't you? And no, if somebody else could have gotten a group together and called me in. Well, yeah, if you don't do it yourself, then, but the whole time I did and the first year was really bad with my grades. And I tried the second year, and it was just fine. And one of the professors up there had told me that I forgot, I lost my thought on that. But you know how the students get together and preparing for your examination and all. Mm-mm. All that I did by myself. I didn't call anybody to let's study together, and they didn't call me. So however I got out, it was by myself. And me and the Lord, that is. And one year, well, that was the first year, I made low grades, and some, I guess, would have gotten discouraged, but I don't know, is that after the first year? Yeah, I'm sure it was after the first year. And the next time for grades to come out, I made the honor roll. So I don't know. I don't know what it took. I mean, I was out of school a long time before I started law school, so that it may have had something to do with it. But I had faith in doing it, and Lord let me go on and do it, because I always got my grade, not bragging about it, but I mean, I even in coming up in high school and everything else, my sister Carrie, she was 1 grade ahead of me, and whatever I needed, in my grades, high school as well as college, I was able to, well, not law school, but I was able to get her help. And I'm so glad I did go on with it. So that's enough of a background. You want me to talk further about it?
I mean, what? We have more questions if you're
Well, come on.
Okay. Did any professors kind of stand out to you while you were at UF? I mean,
did any professors do what?
Who you especially remember for any reason?
Oh yeah, I don't remember the names though.
That's okay.
I don't know, but one professor was close to the black students, and had us over to his house sometimes. But that was more social than anything else.
But so those were what, like dinners and things like that, or what was the?
Just for no dinners. His wife was a teacher, and he was too, and I don't know, saying anything about that was why. But we didn't look for anything. Sometimes we had, they bring out a plate of sandwiches or something like that, and we still talk on, but not anything that, you know, you're invited to dinner this time and that kind of thing. But that was my second year in law school. That was right after they had this summer meeting to get more blacks interested in studying law, and I don't know, maybe about 15 came, 12 or 15, something like that. The next year, the next school year. That would be my second year. Some of them stayed after the first year, and some went to A&M and some other schools. But I made it my business to go to University of Florida. I hadn't heard anything about it, but knowing states and how they do, they think that the university, they know what's the best school for your study law or study whatever. They know, I mean, you know, that's around, that's the best school for that, and I don't know whether it is or not, but that's what they said. So, and if I've got to put all I've got to put into it, I may as well go to what they say anyway would be the first school, and may also say that if you don't go to another school, you know, oh, where'd you go? I never heard of that place before. I don't know about saying that, but that's the impression I got. But I'm glad I did go, and
So where did you live when you were in Gainesville? Where were you living?
I was living at there's some apartments near the old high school of Gainesville, and that's how I tell people when I was going there how to get how to get to my place and that kind of thing. But do you know what general area?
I think so. Lincoln? Lincoln High School? Is that the Lincoln High School? Is that the one you're talking about? Or there are a couple old high schools.
This was a high school.
Okay.
That was right across the road from that big bunch of housing that the government, the local government get in all these towns. That's where you have they have houses for people of low or no income.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I know where you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's where I was. But, and because they, let's see, somebody, I don't know, how did I get this information about that? But, because I was living at, in a private home, not home, but they owned it, and it was a house. But the place over there with the apartments, they weren't houses for you, other people been living in, and they're new apartments, and they were government sponsored. Mm-hmm. They were built for people of low and no income, so it was a nice place over there, that I was able to stay in.
When you were at UF, do you know if there were any large student protests or anything like that?
Large what?
Any protests or anything?
Oh, let's see, what would that be? Yeah, there were some things with racial overtones. One or two that we marched in. But frankly speaking, I don't know what they were about now, but I know it was a racial thing. And the law students, quite a few participated in those one or two that I engaged in. That was, but I don't think we had anything at the college at that time that was based at College of Law, University of Florida. Nothing was started in that area from the law school, but the times I'm talking about were some things where we joined in rather than, because I don't know what other people did, because
Do you remember the Institute of Black Culture?
do I remember what?
The Institute of Black Culture. It was across the street from the university, across University Avenue.
Seemed like to me there was something along those lines.
Okay.
Seemed like to me it was.
Okay.
But as this answer lets you know that I wasn't in it, but it was there, and some things in and out, yeah.
So when you were on campus, where did you spend most of your time? Was it at classes? Did you have a place in the library or anything, or where did you go?
Well, library, not that much, and I did study at home more than anywhere else. Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you that one time I early in the my career of learning law. Got it that quick. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, I won't try to, I hope I'll be able to think of what I was about to say. But anything, anybody else have a question?
I got a few, but yeah.
I think I got mine.
Oh yeah, I think this is what it was. At one time before I got started. After that time, that whole first year, that was I didn't do well at all, and the next year, oh yeah, and I was down really. Could have been D. Could have been after my first year. But I don't remember it being after my first year. It could have been after my end of my second year. My grades were down, way down, and the next quarter or whatever, I made the honor roll. But one of the teachers had said, well, that he thought that was just the thing, in other words, he was thinking that because of getting adjusted to college work, law college work, that's why you're so far down. And the next time you look at these subjects you're taking, and you made the honor roll, he thought that the time it takes a year or so to adjust to your study of law, that did it, you know. But I don't know what it was, but all I know is that at one point where I had summed up my grade, they and I had summed up my grades, the next year may have been some subjects that I'll be more familiar with, I don't know. But that's the way it was.
So I have a question about when you were growing up, did you always know you were going to go on to college and things like
Oh,
that?
no.
No?
Are you kidding? No. If you think about anything like that, these people will put you in jail. Lord, forgive me for saying things like that. But no, I never had any idea about reaching out like that. Going to law school.
So how did you end up deciding to go on to? When did you decide you were going to college? How did you decide on
To law college? The college period?
To Tuskegee first.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's no doubt about that. My mom had 3 sisters. She and this one, she's the oldest out of the girls, and Mama's the next one. And then on down the line, the other 3. There are 3 more. But all those 3 went to college. Money, I don't know, didn't steal to get it. And so but at that time, you do 2 years of work, 2 years of college work, and you can teach then. And, they didn't even, at that time, didn't think about going to school for 4 years, because the schools were separated, and that made some difference too. The whites and the blacks, and may have thought that go on to school at 2 years is all you need. You don't not need it anyway so much. But all these little things, as you can tell, that my own thoughts about why thing. But no, we. That didn't come up.
So how did you decide on Tuskegee?
My second oldest, aunt went there, and she heard about that program that where you can go to school and work your way through college yourself. That's where we got it from. She brought it. She would go up there. She herself, because they would take 2 years of college work, and then they were eligible to teach. So after 2 years, my aunt, she started teaching, and during the summer, she tried to get into, because she wanted that law degree, 4-year degree. And she went to Tuskegee to get hers there. And that's how we got it. She was there during the summer and told my sister Carrie about it and talking about it. And we all, with that knowledge, we all thought about, Tuskegee is where it's at, where we going. And that was one good thing. And then we passed it on to some other people here in Brooksville, and our cousins and whatnot. They were able to go up there too because of that work program.
Did you do any, were you involved in any activities at Tuskegee?
Excuse me.
Were you involved in any activities like student organizations at Tuskegee?
Working.
Aside from working, what did you do for fun?
What did we do? Well, yeah, well, the games and things. We didn't have what you call it, football here in our town. Not until a long time before we got football here. So I don't know, and still don't know much about it. But basketball was one thing that was attractive to me anyway. And but that's all on the line of activities like that.
Well, so what was Brooksville like when you were growing up here?
Well, it was when things were separate. Everything was separate. I mean, you know, when it comes down to activities and whatnot, and even at the movies, we sat upstairs and paid for it and sat upstairs, and that's it. I mean, because the town is small, nothing going on here anyway. And for them, I mean, well, for the whites and nobody else, you know, it's a small town. But we had ours, whatever it was, and our games. Basketball was all we did intramurally, like. But we don't. I mean, you know, that's separate. You don't go there. They don't come to us, and we don't come to them because we are separate.
Did you interact much with white people at all when you were growing up?
No, my mom and all her sister and all, they worked for, you know, that's made a living through being cleaning and cooking and keeping the folks you're working for. Thank God, else it wouldn't have no way of getting any change, any money or anything. But at one point in time, I was about to say something about other work that could. Oh yeah, this was a country town, and you have your vegetables and whatnot growing. People who had that, they would hire blacks to. But I don't think many of them did that as a job to take care of their family with. That's something they do on the sideline.
Okay. Extra money.
Mm.
Extra money.
Yes.
Okay. Did your family grow any food or anything like that, or where did you get your food from?
Yeah, well, we fruit trees grow everywhere. Even now, the tree over across the road there, that I used to remember that as a tree that we used to get, and across the road here. I got a lot over there, but I don't understand it from time to time. Even now, we for fruit trees and things, we'd go and get them off trees near you, you know, whether you own the property or not. But we never, you know, never was, because everything was plentiful like that, and people who own the property, you don't even care whether you go or not. And so we didn't have any problems along that, even though you may or may not have owned the property. But if some oranges grow on this land, don't think you're going to get it because it's yours. Don't think you're going to get it all. We got some of it too. I don't know of anybody getting in jail about it. I don't know, come to think of it, I don't know why we didn't.
Can I ask a little bit more about your time with the NAACP?
About what?
The NAACP.
Mm-hmm.
So what inspired you to want to work with them after the Peace Corps?
Well, the need really, because in the towns and things, the bigger towns had branches. And when I was in the Peace Corps and when I got out of the Peace Corps, well, more of our people would seem like to me they were more anxious to get into, well, not only just more anxious, somebody's got to come and let them know, you know, how can you involve yourself. A lot of times the bigger towns have meetings on Sunday and bringing in somebody from New York. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to get that telephone call because
I had asked what made you want to become involved with the NAACP.
Oh, yeah.
And you were talking about how you wanted to bring some of basically what you were doing with the Peace Corps back here.
Well, not necessarily here, but I was getting around, you know, we had our meetings, some places, well, that you're talking about didn't have branches, and they didn't keep up with things until something blows over in somewhere else. But you know, we needed everybody to join in, because some people are really frightened of being members of an organization like the NAACP. Because at that time, some people were getting hurt and don't know why, you know. And nobody wants to volunteer to be shot at, I guess. But it finally, you know, stopped thinking like that.
Did you get any threats or anything when you were organizing the NAACP?
No. I think the first time that I had called a meeting of the public and invited everybody to come, I had an article put in the paper, and that was and it was being held on Sunday after a certain church service, and somebody who was white called me, and he's thinking that people coming in from everywhere from the big cities to raise hell, I guess, about it. And I told him, no, that's because they didn't know any better in what we do. And I invited him to come. And because I put the article in the paper that we having this meeting, the NAACP having a meeting on such and such a day, and that's what that was about. He said, oh no, I didn't. I said, you invited, so you can come on, everybody. but that's about the only thing I uh, got from the public, the white public, that I knew about.
When did you first learn about the NAACP? Did you ever hear about it growing up, or was it only after you went to college or the Peace
Oh
Corps?
yeah, no, I heard about the NAACP way before then, because it had been around a long time, and even though we didn't have one here, we'd be talking about who was killed and who was done wrong by and all of that. We talked about it amongst ourselves at home. And you know, I was a child at the time, but children got ears too. They listen at what's being said by the grown-ups, and have their own conversations about it too.
Did you get any of the black newspapers here, like the Chicago Defender or anything
Yes,
like that?
they had people who sold the papers. Well, they had one person would get it. I was thinking about this one lady. She was one to bring it around every weekend.
Okay.
Did you continue working with the NAACP after law school?
Yeah, I was state secretary for 12 years, I think.
So you did that while you were in Jacksonville too? So
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you involved at all with the NAACP while you were in Gainesville? Did you ever work with anyone there?
Well, I was in touch with Reverend
Oh, right.
Wright, yeah, and the Baptist church there, and we knew each other from going to meetings even before I was in school at let's see, I'd better get that
Okay.
too.
We were talking about Reverend Wright.
Oh, yeah, about Reverend Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's, yeah, I used to, in fact, I started going to church there too. I was at his church.
Oh, okay. At Mount Carmel?
I've forgotten what there's a Mount Carmel I went to in Clearwater, where I had membership. I taught. I practiced law there. It was 10 years, and that was one thing I wanted when I got out of law school. I still wanted my own law office, because if you were working with other people, I mean, especially if you got a job in with some already going law office, you got to listen at what somebody say and take the cases they say. But I said, I ain't gonna go to school for law and then come back to be told, don't do this and don't take that. You know, I didn't want that. So I had, I stayed there in Clearwater for 10 years. And then things started getting slow work. So I heard about a job in Brooksville. I was surprised. I saw it in one of the law books, not books, but magazines, where they needed another worker on their staff. But at that time, they didn't say, because their home office was in Ocala. In Ocala, but you know, that's close enough to Brooksville for me. But it was, I found out that was where the work was, really in Brooksville. So I grabbed at it, I got on the telephone, called and got it.
What kind of law did you practice?
Huh?
What kind of law did you practice?
Anything that walked in the door, no.
I understand.
But you were talking about generally when I first started, or what?
Yeah.
'Cause,
Anything.
you know, yeah, that's about it. Anything that you hear about, they hear about you. But I didn't have any idea. In fact, when I studied law, I wanted to work near Brooksville, but not in Brooksville. So I did that, and later on, I had a change of mind of working in your hometown. I say, well, I'll take that.
What was it like coming back to Brooksville after being away?
Well, not anything much. Not much had changed. So far as, you know, the people are concerned, still nearly everybody in town, your cousin. And by the way, we had the 50th reunion of the Timmons family. And that 50th year was 2 years ago. We really had a wonderful time, and that was not skipping a year and all like that. Every year we had some of the older members of the family. They would get near May, the last weekend in May, they start calling around, you know, the ones, calling the ones who usually did the work, you know, get the letters out and get your, who's going to do cakes and who's going to, all like that. And it's just been a really good thing. You never knew you had so many, nearly every, in fact, I said, Mom, how'd y'all get any husbands around here? And she said, well, almost didn't get any. They come in from out of town. And at that time, you know, well, I don't know about that. And I go that way.
Is this where your mother grew up too?
Yes.
What about her parents? Were they from here as well, or?
Yes. Her parents. Not her father, though. Her father, he came from, I think that was South Carolina. Also, I know Dad did, because I went up there one time.
But so your grandmother grew up here as well?
She died, though. Mama's mama died when they were children, really. Well, they weren't out, well, some of them weren't out of the house yet. When Mama was about 16, that's when her mom died.
Do you know any stories about her?
Well, she was the first child of our the one whose name is the one that started the reunions. She was a daughter of that family, and that was the Timmons family. And that's how they got that in. Mama was daughter.
Did you have another? Yeah, it's kind of off. So, I'm just trying to conceptualize your time in Jacksonville, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that there was an incident with Martin Luther King in Jacksonville. Did you ever have a chance when you were working with the NAACP to see any of their leaders or any of the famous civil rights leaders that we know?
When I got involved, with NAACP work, I don't recall. Well, Martin Luther King was not. He's one of the main civil rights workers, but he was not connected with the NAACP, even though when big things happen and it's just it's a civil rights activity, then that's when they all get together. But money is got that, any kind of organization, you have to have money if you're going to make it work. And they were not, you had the NAACP, you had, what's the name of that group that, I can't think of the names of other civil rights groups, but we're not against each other, but we have meetings. It's organized, really organized, and in order to keep anything going, just some money is required, and they and even though one is not fighting against the other, but if you have activity planned, you come and everybody else too, especially if it's a big something. But what I'm trying to say is that they were not that close. And NAACP didn't start something and then draw you all in. But then we have people who work for more than just the one, too, because we don't all do the same thing, and certainly not at the same time. And but no real animosity between the groups, but they just it's one. This is one organization, and this is another organization, and NAACP is more organized than any other of the organizations, civil rights groups. Yeah, but now you can become members of both of them. It's not that kind that have to have a secret or password or something like that.
Did you know Robert Saunders?
Mm-hmm. Bob Saunders, out of Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah, he's state field director.
Did you work with him much, or?
Not much, not all that much. Because he was still living when I was in Florida with the NAACP, but he wasn't hired by the NAACP at that time, but he was still a good member. I mean, one that we relied on. And you have your branch have some activities that all you have to do is call them. You know, got people like that that were once active and now no longer active.
Well, when you were working in the NAACP, I mean, what do you think are some of the most important things about organizing that, let's say, younger people today should know?
Well, one thing, if you're working for the organization, you have some things that's expected of you and your office. That is the membership in the NAACP. We have to work with branches that do something, some kind of activity that would create income, and if you're employed by the NAACP, you, the employee, you expected to go to that branch in Jacksonville, in Brooksville, and work with them and getting it, maybe a banquet, and maybe some other thing, maybe bringing some important people in. And that's the kind of thing it is, because it's one while people thought that, that's when I was trying to organize the Brooksville branch. Forgot what I was going to say. Well, I forgot what I was going to say about it, but if you have someone who's on staff of the NAACP, that person is supposed to come in and help you work up your program and pull in different ones who work in the program otherwise, but don't have anything to do with setting up the activity that you're about to do, and get the word out, that kind of thing. And some activities require some money, and but it's organizational work.
And so, this is kind of a backtracking question, I guess.
That's all right.
Is there anything in particular from growing up that you think prepared you kind of for all of these things that you did later in life? Like any teacher or something, anything in this town that kind of, or any, people, experiences, anything like that?
No, because when I was growing up, people weren't particular about having the younger people know anything, and and sometimes in your home, the grown-ups talking about something, and it can be about some problems that, in many times, that's what it is, about black-white problems. because they tell you to go away, play, go, you know, get away. You sow this, you sow that. They run you. They won't let you hear what they say. Think they're not letting you. They don't have it under control, but go out and play is a thing for you. You know, because they seem like even when telling who did something, who killed this this man, and what they say, and this white man did that, and they don't want you to know that, because you know, I can see that even now, because children will talk. If you hear something, they'll get it and go with it, just like the grown-ups. If they don't know any better, Mr. So and so, they called in somebody from another town, and they're going to do this, that, and the other. But we didn't know then that they're trying to protect us, rather than being something that we wanted to know and talk about, because children will talk if they hear it. They talk. Now, if they don't hear it, it's another story. But that's the kind of thing that, as I said, black, white, because my mom's oldest brother, they said nobody knows what happened to him. And, you know, just disappeared, and that was it. And they wouldn't want the children to talk about it, because number one, they don't know the facts and don't know what it was, but all they know is that he disappeared, never heard from him again, and that wasn't the case before this happened.
Can I ask what his name was?
WL is what they called him, Larry.
Okay.
Is his name. And he was the oldest one in that family, and the next he was a boy, and the next person, the second child, was Willie Larry. But I mean, which don't know what that W stand for, but it looked like to me, we used to talk about that. Why didn't they name him something else, WL? But they're not the same. But children.
Did you know him? Like, did you meet
Oh
him?
no, that was way before my time. But people during that time, they didn't like to talk. That's another thing. They didn't like to talk about. They be careful about who hears their conversations, and especially when talking about in a black-white situation where good things done and for bad things done, but nothing much good was done.
You talked about how you're reluctant to, like, back then they were reluctant to talk to kids about what was going on. But you also said that you went to law school because you wanted to teach people about the law and their rights. Were you able to do that?
Frankly, I didn't get the last part of what you were saying.
Were you able to teach people about their rights after law school?
Oh, no. Well, I don't know, especially when you put teaching in there, that, you know, like something formalized. But I don't, because we talk, and you know, it's not anything, you know, like we got a group saying this, that, and the other, and it's all about white people and that kind of thing. We don't have anything like that. I mean, so far as I know of today.
Well, so can I ask, what do you think some of the Brooksville NAACP accomplishments have been since it started?
Accomplishments. I don't,
Or whatever's been most successful?
yeah, well, thing is, right now, we don't, you know, it's just not much happening along these lines. And we don't even, in fact, I won't say, yeah, I will say we don't even do that much anywhere. I mean, in meetings and anymore. It don't seem like we have the kind of things that went up there and they wouldn't give or wouldn't let this person borrow money from the bank and the other person not, you know, things like that. And we don't have that now that I know of. And if you have it, I guess people wouldn't talk about it as much. But anything where there's violence and something like that between races and whatnot, don't have that. I mean, it's not talked about. I don't know what's going on behind your doors and this one's doors.
Do you wish that they were doing more?
Doing more of what?
More meetings, more outreach?
Well, no, not. I wouldn't wish for meetings as much as I would wish for, if something is happening, you letting somebody know about it so they can do something about it. But I don't know what's happening. I wouldn't know. You know, that needs reporting.
Yeah, we really appreciate your taking the time out to do this interview with us today.
Say what?
We really appreciate your taking the time out.
Oh, well, that's all right. More people been by here today than I don't know when.
That's fair. Did you have any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, so let's see. I mean, I think this is probably a good time to close the interview, if that's okay.
Yeah, well.
Usually at the end of an interview, we would just ask if you have any kind of final thoughts or reflections that you would want to add, or anything like that.
Well, not really, because I really, you know, I wanted to respond to whatever you have, you know, that you want.
Okay, well, I guess I can ask one last question.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed you've got a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. on the
Dr.
next
King.
to the door, Dr. King,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got Dr. King on your shirt as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, I mean, it was, you know, Martin Luther King Day just this past week.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on his legacy and anything to say about why he's such an important figure to you?
Mm. Well, I'm glad that there is such a thing as Martin Luther King Day, because he did do so much and had to take so much. I mean, when you think about y'all, I don't think y'all, any of you were born then, when he was beaten in the street by police. The dogs would sit in the march or whatever he was in. They let the dogs out, you know, the biting kind of dogs. And in jail, you saw pictures of things that were happening and was being said. And that was during the time that it was happening and happened. And some of our own people, they were so critical of Dr. King. So many of them didn't think that was required, but some of it was not wanting to have him beaten up. And they would say many times that you ought not to go there, don't start nothing, don't do that, but out of fear that they may be next or something like that. But you got to be, you don't have to be there to feel it, but to see it. And of course nothing is happening to you. You home looking at it on TV. And many times that's when we come up with, you ought not to be there. I know my grandfather used to say that, go home, let them go to their house and you go to your house, that kind of thing. But he stood all of that, and died so young, having done it. But you know, we just, things happen, and you have to take it. It's over with, hopefully over with now, and you can be glad about it. Will you happen to know whether is Mrs. King, she's still living, do you? Don't know that.
No, she's not.
Hmm?
Coretta Scott King? No, she's not.
She's not.
Well, I think that's a good place to close then. Thank you very much for sitting down with us.
I'm glad you wanted that information.